My name is Graham Hart, member of the Fire Service Preservation Group. I used to be an AA patrolman, but I'm now retired, so I spend a lot of time playing with fire engines. This is my particular vehicle, a Range-Rover TAC R2. Its primary function was to remove the air crew on a downed aircraft before the big foam tenders came in, and that's all it did. It was a snatch rescue, basically. This one served at RF Newton up in Northamptonshire, and its final days at RF Wittering, where the Harrier fleet were based. The vehicle came to me, it was very pink, so I've cleaned it all up, had the decals replaced on it, back to how she was in RF Wittering, and I still use it today, and it performs the function it was designed originally. I can travel long distances and get out the other end, and it's a Range Rover and I'm comfy. If you drive some of the bigger machines, when you've done about 20-30 miles, you know you've driven them. You get sore backside and death, basically. I wanted to be a fireman. I haven't been a fireman because my eyesight failed me, but next best thing, buy your own fire engine. I think the old phrase, for those who remember it, was Mr. Remington bought his own razor factory. So it's the same with me, I bought my own fire engine. It's an interesting drive, it wallows a bit, but once I was taught how to drive it properly by an RF firefighter. You can virtually get it up on 3 wheels. Just get a thrill, just get a buzz, and obviously displaying it. And as my other half says, while I'm playing with this woman, I'm not playing with any other woman. I've had training, I'm an airfield firefighter. 2 years ago here, in this field actually, a little steamer, it was a stubble field, a little steamer trundled in, drove around and dropped some ash out of his boiler. It set fire to the stubble. The trouble is with stubble, it not only does it burn on top, it burns underground, so we had to end up digging a trench and flooding the field with water. But being all-wheel drive vehicle, it doesn't matter, it'll go anywhere, literally anywhere, whereas the bigger machines tend to get stuck if they go off-road. Right, this is what they call the business end of my appliance. Basically, this is the rescue equipment that they would require to get the downed air crew out. Specialised equipment, which isn't carrying a normal appliance. You've got the special aircraft crash axe there, which will literally open like a tin opener. This is getting more and more in use now. The Americans brought it in. It's what they call a hooligan bar. And it's no padlock, no door, it's safe. It's very sharp, and it will do most things. And the plus there, you've got the usual equipment. It's a toolbox there, which has got various cutting equipment to get into an aircraft. Blankets and various sheets and that. And the one thing in there that nobody wants to use is the body bag. But unfortunately, you have to be prepared to do that. And this one's a scene floodlight. And when that goes elevated up, will light quite a big area. What they call a short extension ladder. You don't need anything bigger on this particular appliance because the highest you need to get is into a cockpit of an aircraft. The other interesting thing about this as well, the paint is original. It will need doing at some point, but it's actually anti-infrared paint. So when it's deployed in a war zone and things like that, it can't be detected by radar or anything like that. It will reflect it. This one particularly wasn't used abroad, it was mainly in this country, but its sister one, she was deployed with the Harrier force in Germany and places like that. And that was in camouflage paint, but over this special infrared paint. 200 gallons or 1,800 litres of foam, which will last approximately 6 to 8 minutes if both the side guns are used. Again, doesn't sound long, but it's long enough to get the air crew out and to make a pathway through the air crew to get them out. And it's discharged through these things at the side here. These are called blabbermouths for obvious reasons. That will mix air and the water and foam, and it will project quite a long distance. It will also produce a curtain so that the crew can go in to get the air crew out. Once it's finished, again, it doesn't do any other function, and the vehicle clears out the way for the big main foam tenders to come in. One thing that we are blessed with is a lot of the fire services and defence fire services in my case will allow us to carry the logos and that on the side, providing we aren't stupid, and draw attention to ourselves. So they are pretty good like that. These are owned by Graham Isaac, local man from Paynton. This one's an ex-Devon one, and then that one's Hampshire Fire Brigade. That was the first one that he purchased, which is, as you can see, they're both kept very immaculate, very polished. Believe it or not, half the appeal of having an old fire appliance is polishing. If you take photographs, red is the colour you should have in a photograph. The Dennis over in the corner there with fire on the front there is ex-Hampshire Fire Service, served at Alton. It was the last Dennis D water tender built by Hampshire Fire Service in their own workshops. It went from Alton to Fawley Oil Refinery, where they obviously used it in its second rebirth, if you like, and it was converted to diesel. It's now got a diesel engine in it. Well, originally it would have had a petrol engine in it, but obviously fuel consumption, diesel's far better. Graham's worked hard and got the original equipment, beg, borrow or steal, which is what we tend to have to do, but most of it is given to us. So it's equipped as it was in service. The only thing that it hasn't got is a full crew, and obviously because we travel around as individual drivers. 1996 it was sold out of service, and Graham's continuing, as we all do, to do bits and pieces on it. This one, Dennis, local machine, Devon Fire Service, fitted with a 635 Ford Perkins diesel engine. Again, fully equipped. It was actually owned by one of the Torbay Steam organisers who sadly passed away, and it was offered up for sale, and Graham snapped it up. Graham is a serving fireman with Devon Fire and Rescue. They go well. They're both lovely machines. As I say, it's fully equipped, fully operational, and it's on standby duty this weekend, as this one is, in case of anything catches fire, because obviously with steam engines you've got coals, cinders and all sorts of things flying around. The thing with fire engines, they do not do many miles. They'll get the call and they'll probably go 10, 15, 20 miles up the road and come back again. For example, this particular one has only got 29,000 miles on the clock. Most of them I've put on myself. So mechanically they're fine. They tend to be the bodywork and the pumps and everything is abused, but you restore them carefully over a period of time. Dennis's were one of the main suppliers of fire appliances over the years. Unfortunately they're no longer in existence, but they did supply. Then one of their main brigades they supplied was the London Fire Brigade, and they developed what they called the slam locker body, which is what this is, with the lockers that open up. Devon bought quite a few of these appliances. Unfortunately, there's one drawback with them. You park down a narrow country lane, barn on fire. You go to open the lockers up, as you can see, that's fine. It's a bit difficult squeezing past a country lane with burly firemen and trying to get the pump out, because that pump comes out on a cradle, and you've got to try and lift it out and then lift it away from the appliance, and now you're looking at twice the width. Later appliances, they realised this was an issue and then went on to the roller shutters. It is equipped exactly as well as in service. They had the breathing apparatus set. You've got the resuscitating unit there for, obviously people that need resuscitating. The little portable pump, sometimes you need to take those into a pond or river situation, because you can't get the big appliance near it. So you can pump the water from that into the big appliance and vice versa. The hoses stored in this one, they are quite heavy to deploy, but they, when they're full of water, they're an absolute nightmare to roll up because they're soaking wet, but it's something obviously you have to do. Standpipe keying bar, which is the standard thing for opening the hydrant up, and that's one of the nozzles that actually fits in the end of the hose to transmit the water into the fire situation. Unfortunately, a lot of it, as you can see, is aluminium. The older stuff is made of brass, a lot of it's aluminium. It gets what we call weighed in, so they put the old redundant equipment into a skip, man comes along, pays the fire service money. Fairly recently, unfortunately, because of various antics of various political groups, one of which bought a fire engine and filled the thing up with red dye and sprayed a ministry building in London. And because of that, now the decree is most of the equipment will be cut up, and the appliances will as well. I mean, for example, Scottish Fire and Rescue have just cut up 15 10-year-old appliances, so nobody can buy them, which is going to leave a gap, unfortunately, in the preservation market. But it's generally all, I mean, you make friends with the local fire service, you speak to them nicely, they realise that you're doing it as a hobby as opposed to being firemen, playing firemen and this sort of thing, and they're fairly responsive. A lot of the kit, you can say, does take a while. You know, you can't just go, right, I'll fully equip it. It does it over the years. You know, somebody will appear and say, oh, I've got a standpipe that will fit your appliance. Oh, terrific, yes please, thank you very much. Usually it's for a drink. Okay, this is the what they call the business end, if you like. Standard Dennis fire pump. This particular model pumps 500 gallons per minute and it's full whack. There are some that do 1,000 gallons per minute and they're usually fitted to city appliances or, as everybody knows, as Green Goddess is. Standard 2 delivery and it can also produce foam when it's connected the right sort of equipment into it. Fairly easy to operate, whereas the modern ones tend to be electronics and computer driven. These rely solely on the experience of the pump operator, who will continue to look at his fireman all the time to see what they might want. More pressure, lower the pressure, cut the pressure. It's driven from the main engine via the gearbox, and engage your lever inside. And yeah, they tend to be more pumping on static situations, whereas the air-filled stuff, similar to my one, and the bigger ones, they will pump on the move because they you know, an aircraft will burst into fire really hot, so they might have to withdraw fairly rapidly. What's known as a 135 ladder, which is 13.5 metre ladder. Years ago, they used to have ladders with big escape wheels on the back, which were very, very good and easy to use, but they were no good as we humans continue to build higher and longer buildings and tighter streets. They were no good to get in. These can be manhandled with 4 men in very, very close situations. The smaller wooden one, again, predecessor to this one, for smaller locations, but they are heavier. That is heavy on its own, but they are heavier than a standard aluminium ladder of that size. Each side of the appliances that are classified, these are classified as B-type water tenders. They have hose reels because they don't always want to get the big hoses out. They're not always necessary. So again, you've got a hose reel, which is generally 180 foot of reel on there. Some of them are longer, some are smaller. It just depends on the size of the reels. You can see the slam lockers that we saw open on the other side. I personally like these. I think they look like fire engines, whereas the more modern ones, the aluminium shutters, a bit like dust carts, but that's my opinion. Originally Devon Fire Brigade, and it would have had Devon and the ship, which was called the Blue Peter, black outline there, which is the old Devon colour. As things evolved, it became Devon Fire and Rescue Service, where they did away with the Blue Peter. This particular appliance served at North Taunton, sorry. The number on the front door, 12-1, was station 12 and number 1 appliance. So, and if it had another one, it'd be 12-2, 12-3, and so on. My one, the ex-Morton Hampshire one, was 271. This one tends to be lighting and what you would call breaking in gear. Crowbars, axes, bolt croppers, lighting sets, shovels, and a small searchlight which can be mounted on a tripod to illuminate the road accident, etc, etc. Someone's been at work with a bit of brasso there, but normally in service they'd be sort of half corroded, etc. In there we've got the first aid kit, which is an original one. It's got the Devon Fire and Rescue badge on there. Hose ramps, self-explanatory really, hoses on the ground, ramps so cars can drive over them without damaging them. And important these days is a spill response kit, which basically is oil spillage, a bit like blotting paper. Soak it up before it gets into the drain courses and obviously into the environmental impact. In the bottom locker here, from the door in, is the foam making equipment that you add to the appliance to make foam. You've got chimney rods in there, various lights, a bucket, and a good old-fashioned stirrup pump, which goes back to wartime, when the wartime firemen and ARP wardens used to put out the incendiary bombs that the Germans dropped. It's still used today for chimney rods to poke up the chimney fires. Although we don't have so many fires in chimneys as we used to, it's still an easy way to control water and to put the fire out. Basic crew cab. In there you have breathing apparatus sets, but also in a little well which comes back to about this far, there are cutting partner saw for cutting roofs off of cars. Modern appliances use hydraulic systems and battery operated systems, but the era that this appliance was, they would have a partner saw, which is like a giant petrol driven saw. And the other sets is what they call the EPCO sets. The driver's trapped in his car or something similar. His legs are trapped by the steering wheel, the door won't open, things like that. They're massive, great jaws that will fit. They call them jaws of life. They fit into door jambs or behind the steering column, pump them up with a hydraulic press, and it will gradually force them apart. These days, again, it's all done by hydraulic motors and things like that, but in this era that would have been state-of-the-art equipment back in the 70s. Crew of 3 to 4 in the back, but in practice you'd have 2 in the back, 2 in the front. Gradually things change in the environment that the firemen aren't required so much. They can't get the time off work because most firemen in the county departments are, unfortunately, they're on-call firemen, so they have to rely on their employer to allow them to drop their tools, as it were, and run into the fire station. In Devon there are a few main fire stations that are day manned, but a majority of them are what they call on-call, or in the old days they called them retained. And so in here, the firemen sit with their back to the front of the vehicle. They're standing up, putting their clothing on, their tunics, etc. Breathing apparatus sets. If the driver brakes hard, they're not going anywhere. They go back, and that's as far as they go. If they were facing forward, which some appliances they do, he brakes hard, then their heads are going to bash onto various bits and bobs. This is what they call the officer in charge's side. Usually the crew manager in these days, what they call the crew manager, in the old days they called it the leading fireman, would sit here, or the station officer in charge of the station. It would be his job to direct the driver as best he can, and also to use the radio. He's got a spotlight there to light up various houses as they're going past, make sure they're at the right scene. In the old days he would ring the bell up on the roof. On this particular appliance it's an electric bell, and it is fitted with 2-tone hooters as well. And obviously the driver drives and he operates the pump. That's what he does. He doesn't leave the vehicle at all in case things go wrong.
You want to start her up as well, Dave? Start it up.
The one far to the right are the ones that I'm going to use for emergency, but the other two, it's just wail and yelp. You can do those, all right?
I'll do that one.
Okay, as you see, they're fitted with blue lights. In the old days they would just have amber lights, or they would have a fire sign that would light up. But modern day appliances, in the old days they had blue revolving lights. These days it's all flashing lights controlled by strobe lighting or LED lighting. Various warning devices were fitted from the word go. Years ago they would have a chap with a horn, blowing a horn, standing on the side. That progressed to bells, handwritten bells, etc, etc, and that carried on being fitted to appliances up until basically the 80s. This is one of the last ones to be fitted with a bell, if it'll work. Bell. Oh, his bell doesn't work, sorry. They then progressed from the bell to that 2-tone, which as you can hear is extremely loud, and again all 3 of them are fitted with them. 2 tones. 2 tones. As you can hear, they are very penetrating, but over the years they found 2-tone horns were very directional. So unless you're in front of them, you didn't know whether a fire appliance or police car or ambulance was right behind you. They were then fitted with the more common wailers that we hear today. Although this wasn't fitted with wailers originally, because I use it on an airfield and it's used for function, it's got to be recognised by modern standards. So I'll get my colleague to... That tends to bounce off buildings, the ground, anything like that, and is far better for especially in a city environment where you've got side roads. Other than that, it's shouting out the window, which doesn't always work.